Thanks for joining me. I will start to share my screen. Let's give it a moment. Okay, so I'm going to talk you through 4 areas: county training program, in how we select, develop players and prepare players; county cup and county team selection, again selection, how we prepare the players, and then the competition of county cup. And then I'm going to talk to you about 10 and under tennis in Kent, and the new LTA county dashboard, where the focus in those areas is to engage with the counties, support counties, report and set actions. And then I will cover at the end just any other little areas that come under my role. So county training is kind of summed up there. Please just have to give that a quick read yourselves. That's basically just a little bit of a snapshot of what county training is about, the frequency of how often it takes place, what takes place during it, and what's it for. So county training, we select annually. The program runs much like a school timetable, September to June. We run the following age groups: from 7s, 8s, 9s, 10s, 11s, 12s, 14s, 16s, and 18s. 7s and 8s are mixed, and all the other age groups have separate genders. The 7 and 8 and unders start with an open day, and then they filter into 4 programs: 7 and under, an A squad, a B squad, and an East Kent squad. So historically, we used to have 24 players involved in the 8 and under Kent training in one squad, and then there was an East Kent session. Now we can host a lot more players and have them across 4 different levels, and the players can move around this. They can go from the 7 and unders and move into the B squad into A squad. And the East Kent is more of a geographical one, but some of the best players in East Kent are also traveling up to Bromley. They can have the option to, because that's generally where more of the better players are. But it just saves at such a young age parents traveling an hour and a half to get to Bromley when they can go to Canterbury. It brings the best players from around the county to train together on a monthly basis. And generally, the duration of the session is 1.5 to 2 hours long. We teach the British tennis doubles system. Now, the British tennis doubles system is something created by Louis Caillet, who I'm sure many of you have heard of. And it is a system where British players should be able to team up with any other British player and know what each other is talking about. So in terms of the positioning, the roles, the territory on the court, and what happens when, it is a system that is taught, and we teach this generally from the 9 and unders up, and it's a consistent approach. County training is also partly to prepare the players for county cup events. So I felt that county training needed to be something separate and different to what these children do Monday to Friday. I didn't want them to go to a training session monthly and basically just do the same type of drills that they do at their club. We wanted to do something different. So there's more of an emphasis on there being a bit more of a team spirit. And primarily they focus on doubles with a little bit of singles. And then obviously with the nature of county cup events, where generally at least 1/3 of the rubbers available are through doubles, it can be the difference between clinching a tie or losing. So makes a big difference, the focus on doubles. We have an extensive county team, 23 coaches from 12 clubs, all age and stage appropriate. So 23 coaches is quite a big team. I was only with a coach today from Leicestershire, and there are 4 county coaches. So for them, they've got 4 county coaches. They're doubling up on age groups, tripling up probably. And that means there's only a coverage from a very few number of clubs in the county. Whereas geographically, we have county coaches representing 12 clubs. So that can be as far as Margate and obviously as close in as Beckenham. And they're age and stage appropriate. So i.e. these coaches either have a history or currently are more involved in specific age groups. So, for example, Greg McNally is our 18 under lead coach, and he's the 18 under lead coach at Park Langley. Max Robinson generally works with 14 to 18-year-olds, and he's our men's 18 and boys 18 and under captain, for example. And we have approximately 240 children involved across all of those age groups. Here's just a little taster of a pyramid that I wanted to create last year when I'm presenting to parents, just so they know what they're in part of. So when I'm talking about linking in with clubs and getting the coaches to send players to open days, that's very much about engagement. Then it's about nomination. So the coaches will all get sent an email in about July, and they'll be invited to nominate their best 7 and under, 8 and under children to come to an open day in September. And we'll also provide them with a play test. So it's a competency test. Quite often, I think coaches didn't send players because they didn't know what level maybe the players would need to be at. So we made a very basic competency test that the coaches can try out with their players. If the players pass it, send them along. If they do all right, send them along. If they really struggle with the competency test, maybe it's not the right time for them. Then I use the word invitation. So the players that were nominated, a certain percentage, probably at least 3/4, get invited back for a further selection day. And then the word selection appears. And it's very tactical, this, because I don't want the word selection to be used until I absolutely have to use the word selection. Because with the word selection, there's always the perception of there being a non-selection as well. And I think when we're talking about young ages, it's more appropriate to talk about nomination and invitation, and then the word selection has to appear at some point. So then you'll see the word selection as in they are selected into one of the 8 and under county programs. And then they can be selected into the 9 and under county program, and then the 10s to 18s. And then you will see here 2 boxes just to show that the LTA regional camps also happen from the 9 and under age group. In fact, it's right at the end of their 8 and under age group. The first nomination and selection takes place for regional camps, but I will basically nominate our best 9 and under and 10 and under players to Mark Hayden from our county programme, and then he will make selections along with the Surrey, Middlesex and Sussex players and form a regional camp. A regional camp takes place generally at Bromley Tennis Centre because no other county in the last 3 years has actually stepped up to offer a facility that has 4 courts indoors. So quite nice for our Kent players. 16 boys, 16 girls of 2 different age groups, arrival at 8:45 a.m, finish at 3, 3 times a year. So in total, there are 12 camps a year, 6 boys, 6 girls. I thought it might be appropriate that if anyone has any glaring questions on each segment, that you should ask now. So that was a snapshot of county training. If you wanted to ask anything more about county training, do so now, and I can go back slides before I go on to County Cup.
I have a question.
Yep.
Do you get any challenge or any grief from parents who don't approve of the decision you make to include or exclude their child from various parts of this pyramid?
Um, no, not at this stage. So in county training, no.
Okay,
Um,
that's good.
in fact, I can't recall one. And I'm very careful with how I word those. So, for example, the younger age groups, of course, they've come in on that first open day. So, what I did this year, when they came in on the open day, there were 99 children that came between 2 and 6:30. During that, I did a presentation every hour and a half to every single parent that was there to explain to them one, what are they actually attending and what actually happens from here. And it's very much about what the county activity is and what we can offer, and how this might not actually be the right time for your child or the right time for you as a family to come along on a Sunday in afternoon once a month. So I think we've done a really good job of communicating out what this is about. But not at any point has there been any emails come in about a child not being selected. When it comes to the older age groups, because we've been able to extend the numbers a little bit, we will be taking at least 8 boys and 8 girls of each age group, if not up to 22. We actually have 22 18 and under boys. Only 16 can come at one time, but they're on like a rota. So 22 get the opportunity of 18's county training. And then throughout the year, I'm constantly inviting players in for trials. So in August, when we look at our rankings and we make our decision, there is a line drawn. And then for the next, probably until about March, players will be invited in for trials if they all of a sudden make quite a big jump up the rankings. So we're always covering that as well, which I think makes a big difference because it kind of stops the parents emailing in themselves to say, hey, do you not know about my son or daughter? They often get an opportunity to have a trial. So anyway, touch wood. On county training, not yet. County Cup, slightly different, but we'll come to that.
Does a
But
county training program cost?
it does cost, yes.
Okay.
£9 an hour indoors. Anything else? Okay.
Oh, one more, sorry. So
Sorry, no, go, Jason.
in terms of the 23 coaches, how does kind of recruitment go out for the type of coaches?
So the county coaches each year are asked if they would like to continue in their role. I am engaging quite a lot with coaches and clubs around the county, and will often then hear of other coaches that would like to be considered. So then I have a list of coaches that would like to be considered if a role comes up, and also in which age groups they feel like they specialize. So the existing team, because I do like continuity, will be asked if they would like to continue. I've not had any reason, bar one or two a couple of years ago, where I'd either want to move them out or into a different age group. But generally each year there's been fresh faces.
Mhm.
So every year for the last 3 years, there've been fresh faces. And there've been new coaches coming in. And I'm very keen that when a new coach come in, they come in from a new club, if possible, that's not already represented. So Margate being a really good example last year with Reese Maberley. Ben Fudge this year from Oakwood. And also very aware of trying to maintain, if it's a female coach that drops out, I want them replaced with a female coach.
Mhm.
So every female county training session has a female coach or two.
Okay. And do you conduct any interviews or anything like that, or is it just word of mouth based on like
No,
what
I mean,
they've
I know
delivered?
the coaches.
Yeah. Okay.
So one, I either know the coaches because I've been around a while, or I know them because I've met them on my travels around the clubs, so I know them well. But no, we haven't interviewed. You could argue that when a county coach comes in, that they could almost have a 3-year tenure, if you like, in their position, unless it was felt by either party that actually they weren't right for the role. And maybe you could argue that you then advertise out for the roles again. But that creates a lot of work and a lot of uncertainty, because what I know about the coaches I know where they are, I know what level of coach they are, and I know what level of players they are working with. And if we were to try to deliberately change it up too much, whilst I'm sure we could unearth some great coaches, I would have to retrain them all with the British tennis doubles system and ensure that they fully understood what county training was about. So we could change it up more often, but I believe it would create a lot of work in doing so.
Brilliant. Thanks for that.
Answer that okay?
The one thing I was just going to add in, Craig, was about the money. Jason asked about, do we charge? There is a limit per session set by the LTA, or there was. I assume there still is, Craig.
No.
Is there not?
No, they stopped all of that 4 years ago.
Okay.
There is no
limit.
contracts, no minimum standards, no criteria whatsoever. We get £5,000, Jason, from the LTA to subsidise.
We don't really anymore. That's changed as well.
Well, none of it. The thing is none of it's ring fenced.
No,
but in the calculation, it's supposed to still be, and they will still speak of £5,000 for county training, and then there is the additional funds.
Yeah. So Jason, what's being said there is, in the grant that we get from the LTA, the 90,000 that we get as our LTA funding, which is for us to deliver the core role. County training is part of the core role. When it was a separate payment, we used to get £5,000, and there was a set amount per session above which we could not charge the parents. So it used to be something like £6.50 per session.
5 years ago,
Yeah.
5 years ago, it was £6.50. And I mean, arguably, the counties have got to pay for someone like myself to be in the role to deliver this and create the program. And then it was the argument of, well, the funding that comes in also, you've got to consider being offset against time and expense of someone to actually implement the program. So I know that a lot of counties ran a very significant loss at £6.50. In terms of where we're based, £9 an hour indoors is fair, and it will not go up for at least 2 more years. And I've said that because we've gone up by 50p per hour over the last 4 years. There will be no more increase.
Yeah. And we do make, I mean, it's difficult to know exactly what our financial position is on it. We pay court costs, we pay the coaches who deliver, we pay Craig and Siobhan who oversee a lot of it. So it's quite hard to unpick the precise cost, isn't it?
Yeah, very much. Very difficult.
We certainly don't make a profit on it.
No, but we don't bleed thousands and thousands in terms of what we take in from 240 children within this program, and then what we're paying out with the coaches and courts and what have you. It's not a program that you'd look at and say, well, what is that worth it? It costs us something with my time and everything, but yeah, it's cost effective, let's say.
And you said it's once per month, right?
1 session per month for each age group, up until, for some of the older age groups, up until the county cup event. So, okay. For example, the 7s and 8s will have sessions from September until June, The 9s will have them from September until June. The 10 and unders upwards, they will have county training up until the County Cup team event itself takes place. And then the county training ends. Now, there can be some argument, pros and cons of that. And the reason it happens is that historically, the players generally came to county training because they wanted to give themselves the best possible chance of getting into the county team. And once the county teams were selected and the county cup took place, the attitude of the players generally was, well, there's no point in coming now. So players didn't turn up. So the program runs up until the county cup and stops. So for example, if the 10 and unders are in May, the 10 and unders county training stops from May. Doesn't do May and June. The 18s run September to February and then end. The 18s have got no interest in county training really from March until June. And when I say they've got no interest, probably 50% of them wouldn't really have the interest in doing it. That you may find that there's a group of players that potentially don't have a great training program that might enjoy being with their peers once a month for the next 3 or 4 months. But just historically, players haven't attended.
Okay.
So it is a training program. It is to develop doubles, but it is geared up to preparing for County Cup.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Okay. County Cup. Have a read. So the only age group you'll see there that doesn't have County Cup is 16 and under. Never has done. But we in the Southeast have a 16 and under trophy that we run during the Surbiton Championships on the grass with Surrey, Middlesex and Sussex, which has been running for quite some years now. So we run that. Generally, the very best players in 14 and unders, particularly with the girls, probably will get into the 8 and under county training and potentially be knocking on the door for the 8 and under team. You may find that players that are in the 14 and under county cup may have 1 or 2 years where they don't play for their county, but are soon playing for them again at 17 and under and 18 and under. But there has never been a 16 under county training. As you saw there, with the 18s are on a promotion and relegation league, whereas all the other age groups are on a regional qualifying basis into a national finals. So it's an LTA national event. Every county across the country participates. Starts off with regional qualifying into finals. So the regional qualifying generally is so that you're within an hour and a half drive and don't really have too many overnight costs. At times we still need to do it because that is a lot of pressure on the parents to drive the kids early on a Saturday morning, pick them up on a Saturday afternoon, evening, drive them back home, drive them back again on a Sunday morning, particularly if some of them are down in Canterbury and we're playing the girls 14 unders are over in Aylesbury. So we will do like a one night accommodation with a minibus, so the parents don't have to take players. And then the finals generally are Bath, Wrexham, it's been Sheffield, Nottingham.
Sunderland.
Sunderland has been occasionally, and Bolton there's been. And you've got to think Scotland are involved in this. So Scotland are always having to fly down. The 8s, 9s, 10s, 11s, 12s and 14 regional and regional qualifying and finals. And as I said, the 18s are promotion and relegation. There is a selection policy, very clear, concise, transparent selection policy that parents don't read. They get sent it all the time, but still get asked the same questions. But at least I know it's there in black and white, and it's easy to just draw their attention to it. Within the selection policy, there is a certain amount of objectivity and subjective selection. So I'll give you just an example. In the 18 and under boys and 18 and under girls, 10 boys and 10 girls are likely to be selected. And the first 4, based on ranking, get in by right. So if any player wants to get out there and compete their butts off and get themselves ranked in the top 4 in Kent, they will be a direct acceptance and do not have to go through the selection policy. Then the selection takes over with the players' attendance at county training, what their singles results are like, what is their ranking. It's very rare that the number 5 or number 6 wouldn't get selected, or even the 7. Are they a double specialist? Do they have particularly good attitude? Are they a good team player? They're some of the factors that then get considered in a selection meeting, which is always me with the county captain and the vice captain, and Siobhan often on the call as well. 4 to 10 players per gender can be involved. So for the 8 and under county cup that we've got coming up in April, 4 boys and 4 girls have been selected for each team, but we've actually put on a B event. So another 4 and another 4 boys, another 4 girls will be selected. Whereas for the 18s, up to 10 boys and up to 10 girls can be selected. Generally, it's 6. It all depends on the format of the competition. There's a captain and vice captain for each age group, and they are the same coaches that are taking the county training program. So they are an age group lead coach and also the county cup captains.
Do you do the selection with the captain and the vice captain, or who exactly takes part?
The selection is me, the captain, the vice captain, and Siobhan is often on the call.
All right, okay.
And then there's a process they go through, and I challenge them. I also, just so you know, attend 2 sessions of every age group and every gender in county training, so that I am not only just looking at a results list and a ranking list. I've seen the players in the sessions myself as well, so a bit more informed. And when a captain maybe is making a slightly more less than obvious call, I challenge hard on it. But generally, they are the ones that are seeing those players monthly, and they show no bias. And if they've seen something in that player and they give the reasons and it measures up to what we're looking for, then the number 8 player in the county could be selected for a 6-player team.
Do you have any situations where you have in one of the age categories someone ranked in the top 4, but they don't want to do the county program at all?
Yeah,
so they don't turn up to
exactly.
that, but they're just so good, they always end up in the top 4 ranking.
Yeah, so you have to commit to some degree to the county program. So 70 to 80%, Jason, will commit to the county program because actually it's really adding value. Then we've got the players that are off on a slightly different pathway. Kent's a strong county. So if you're in the top 3 or 4 in Kent, you are off playing at a good national level and maybe often internationally as well. So I'm very aware of certain players maybe just cannot commit to the whole program. So I then manage an individual player's schedule on a commitment that they have to show, and the parents sign up for those sessions. So if that happens, they can still be considered. If a parent decides that their child is not going to have any part of county training, then I make it very clear they will not be considered for county cup, because it negates the importance of the county training program and bringing those teams of players together on a monthly basis. And whilst I completely get it that tennis is an individual sport, this is one time a year when they're going to come together as a team. And I've had to stay really strong on that. And sometimes it's been really difficult because it's actually, there are 2 boys right now who now can't be selected to play for the county. And I always believe often it's the parents' decision and not the players. But there are 2 boys now that can't be selected to play for the county because they're not committing at all to the county program in any way, shape or form. No matter how hard I try. I only said they had to attend 2 sessions and they still wouldn't do it. So I have to just accept you're off on your own pathway, a bit like the Brady's. You're off on your own pathway and you're doing your own thing. It's absolutely fine. I've been involved in tennis for long enough and know the individuals involved So we just have to accept it. Does it weaken us slightly as a county in that team? Yes, it does. But then does it give it opportunity to players that are absolutely dying to put on a Kent t-shirt to play? Absolutely. So it's a shame, Jason, but it's actually quite rare.
Okay.
So the county training, as I said, runs from September and it runs up towards the month before the county cup. Selection is made, and then that last session before the county cup is for the players that were selected only. So if there were 12 players in the county training, 6 are selected. That last session before county cup is for the 6 players selected, and it becomes a team training session. Very specific configuration of doubles pairs, who's going to play with who, put them in some pressured situations and just learn a bit more about those players before you go to the county cup the following month.
Do you ever have yeah, sorry, Craig. Do you ever have practice matches or
No.
No, okay.
So inter-county friendly matches is not something we've done for some time. That is going to end up running at quite a cost. I can't recall the exact figure, but it was between £35,000 and £40,000 last year spent on Junior County Cup, because I did a expenses for Jason. 35 to 40 grand. So once you start throwing in extra matches and stuff like that, and to be honest, these kids have got such busy schedules,
right? They
don't need it.
Yeah.
But as I say, we run other events. The South East 16 and under trophy at Surbiton. Surrey run another 8 and under team event in June. We do another 8 and under county cup event in November over in Middlesex. So there are other opportunities. Hotels, minibuses for some of the finals that are far away. And, you know, we had a bit of a shock last year because everything went up last year, hotels in particular, post-COVID, trying to recoup. And I had Siobhan running, you know, Siobhan going and getting quotes for me. And I was like, hang on, Siobhan, I don't think I'd ever heard 5 grand as a figure for County Cup. But yeah, it was, we paid out 5 grand. And one of the reasons, and I actually haven't put this in here, 5 months before the County Cup, the LTA run a check on the players' rankings for each county. And the top 6 counties in the age groups 11 and up, 11s, 12s, 14s, get put straight into finals. They don't have to play the regional. So great, but it means for Kent last year, in many of our age groups, we went straight into the finals. Minibuses, hotels, you know, the lot, because we were straight in. Now, it may have been that we could have qualified. So by not playing the regionals, we don't have to pay those coaches daily rates, and we save several £100s. But in some instances, we may have played a Surrey or a Middlesex and not actually got out of the regional qualifying. But because of the new system, to try and make sure that we have the absolute best players at the finals, Kent last year were put through to the finals of quite a lot of age groups. So it was an immediate hotel booking. Already this year, the 2 14s teams last year were straight to finals. The 14s teams this year are both in regional qualifying. They might not even get out of regional qualifying. So it's a shame, but then the bank balance will save 5 grand at least.
And there's a couple of things that hinge on that. One is it's impossible really to budget properly and forecast what's going to happen. I
did a forecast, didn't I? But you don't know.
You do, but you know, I know, and you well know that you absolutely cannot predict. I mean, you can say on average probably X out of, you know, 6 out of 10 or, you know, 8 out of 16 or whatever will do this or do that, but you don't know, and it can be a lot or it can be a lot less.
I don't think we'll ever spend over 40 grand, and it's unlikely. Well, but I think we'll probably spend between 30 and 40 grand a year.
Yeah, and the other impact what you described has, it impacts the county race when you come on and mention the county race, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier, the national leaderboard, but the county race, I mean, I've made it very clear, actually, in some of my emails to the LTA, why do we have it? because the county race, for those of you that, Jason, do you know what the county race is? No. So the county race is every county in the country. Every success at County Cup gets us points, and there is a leaderboard of every single county in the country, and quite often Kent are in the top 3, runners up to Surrey or Middlesex or Yorkshire. So we are in the top 5 counties in the country in our performances. It's an accolade. Yeah, it's a proud moment. But where I've challenged the LTA a lot recently is that there was the 9 and unders this year. We were put in a regional box with Surrey, Middlesex, Kent, and Essex. So I said, okay, so it's a regional box, fine, but we never all play each other. You've just put 3 or 4 of the best counties in the country all together, which means only one of those teams can get through to the national finals. So it has an impact on the quality of players at the national finals. Is it actually a national finals? Because if Kent, Surrey or Middlesex aren't there, which they wouldn't, 2 of them wouldn't be, it's not a national finals as far as I'm concerned. And secondly, points go towards the county race. So brilliant for Norfolk, Suffolk, Cambridgeshire and whoever else all play off against each other because they're near each other, and one of them gets to go to the national finals. And Kent, Surrey and Middlesex, 2 of them don't go. They haven't got it right yet with that, because I almost just think we'd actually I don't think we need the county race. There are too many things with the Junior County Cup that you almost feel like Surrey or Yorkshire win it quite a lot because they literally own it up north, because they don't have to compete with Kent, Surrey or Middlesex. So not sure if the county race is really needed, but maybe it's a nice thing to chase, but it's not particularly accurate.
So Craig, I have a question, but you may well have just answered it actually. So this county cup, I see on your first point that it's regional qualifying and finals, but as you've just said, I was going to ask, is that you can get obviously the better counties in the same region, which seems, so as you've just explained, slightly unfair. When
so let me say that our 9s the last 2 or 3 years would have been in Southampton. So Kent would have gone to Southampton, possibly had Surrey or Middlesex there, or Surrey or Middlesex, had Dorset and Hampshire or Sussex. So, okay, maybe Kent or Surrey, and if Sussex or Dorset have a strong year, don't get me wrong, they'll have strong years where they can be contending, but quite often it would be a Kent or Surrey or Middlesex. But this year, to go and just put us all together, and then Julie then said to me, oh yeah, but I've done it, because then it's more of a regional thing. No one's got to travel far.
Yeah.
I was like, well, then don't have a national finals. I'm more than happy for Kent, Surrey and Middlesex and whoever else to play against each other in 9 and under county cup, but don't have a national finals then. There's no need. Sussex this year actually begged to not be with Kent, Surrey and Middlesex.
Yeah.
They got shoved in Cardiff.
Yeah.
And then the problem is that Sussex then don't have the budget to send everyone to Cardiff. So Surrey went, don't worry, we'll take the spot in Cardiff, because then it takes Surrey out of the group with Kent and Middlesex, and Sussex are now coming into Bromley. That actually happened, this year. Don't worry, Nigel, I didn't put my hand up and say, don't worry, Kent will go to Cardiff and have the extra expense. We let Surrey have it. But that actually happened this year. It was like, what are you doing sending Sussex to Cardiff? They said they didn't want to be with Surrey, Kent and Middlesex, but they don't have to go to Cardiff, surely. So they haven't quite got it right yet.
It's a real conflict, because part of the driver for the change was to reduce costs, and I'm not convinced they have. It was to make competition more level. But what that does do, the levelling out of the competition has an adverse impact on places 2, 3 and 4 on the county race. And yet people still value the county race. I see how excited people are when they win it. So there's something not quite right, really, because there's quite a lot of this sort of impact has changed the way the county race works now.
Yeah. So when I get Julie's explanation to me of why she did that for the nines, I say great, but then please don't have a South National Finals where Surrey, Kent, or Middlesex won't be there. When one of them would be contenders and they're not going to be there. So it's not a South National Finals as far as I'm concerned. And also don't have it counting towards the county race then. So here's just in case any of you recognise any names, and I've actually put in brackets the clubs that they're associated with. So there's the each age group, the coaches involved. We've got Park Langley, Bromley Tennis Centre, The Avenue, Oakwood, Sevenoaks, Sidcup, Sundridge Park, Bromley Sports Club, Sydenham. There we go. So they are the current coaching team. These were the results from last year. You may have already seen this. So 2023, it's pretty decent. We won 4 regional qualifying positions. 3 of them went through to national finals where we came runners up twice and third. We won the 11s boys, runners up, nationally, Division 1, Division 2 winners. That's a pretty successful year. Right, any questions on County Cup? Although there were already quite a lot there, so you may have covered it.
Sorry, this might be a silly question. What's the whole Division 1 and 2?
So, as I said before, up to 14 and under, Jason, it's in regional and then regional qualifying and then nationals. 18 and unders are on a relegation promotion division. So Division 1 is the top division, of which there are four counties. Division 2 is the next division, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So last year, our Kent boys won Division 1. In fact, they won it 2 years running, which is unprecedented. And our girls won Division 2 and gained promotion. This year, we've just had Division 1. And unfortunately, they finished 3rd and 4th, which is enough to be relegated. So they're both going to be in Division 2 next year.
Makes sense.
Like football, promotion, relegation. 10 and under tennis. A big drive now from the LTA in 10 and under tennis. The regional performance centres have been well set up and well sort of financially aided and providing for the 11 to 14-year-olds. 10 and under tennis now is a big drive in competition and numbers of players coming through. So these are the areas that I would be focusing on. I'm engaging with coaches across the county. Not everyone wants to reply, but I have a pretty good network of coaches and clubs that I'm in communication with. Reaching out to them, learning about them and their programs, and then trying to entice them to send some players to the 8 and under Open Day. I don't expect to email 200 or 300 coaches and just expect the coaches to send the players to the Open Day without me doing a little bit of work beforehand. So I said all along, I need to be someone that these clubs and coaches can identify with as a representative of Kent Tennis. And then we have a better chance that they will send these children to the 8 and under Open Day. And then as a result of that, I look to support the coaches and programs where appropriate. It could be a visit. So I visited several clubs around the county that run 10 and under programs, spent a day with them, learned about their program, saw the players that they have, their coaching team. I can offer some coach and program support, and I know more about their player base then and their program. It's not something I push on them. It just starts off with nice, light communication, offering an olive branch, if you like. Then you get the coaches that reply and come back to you. And then the communication lines further. You offer potential to go and visit. Great. They roll out the red carpet. They get all their kids in on this day and enjoy having someone coming to their club. And that's been working pretty well. Which brings me on to the LTA 10 and under dashboard. all that stuff that I'm doing there is going to really help drive the LTA county 10 and under dashboard, which I will show you the dashboard in a minute. So the dashboard is going to be, it's been launched. I'm actually on, it's my last point there. In fact, I've got a Zoom at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning with 2 LTA representatives about the dashboard. There's going to be a big push at the next county forums to make sure the communication is out there, that every county lead coach, manager, whatever in my kind of position has got the dashboard, knows how it works, and are being made accountable by their Nigel Jordans. Someone in their county needs to be making us accountable. Otherwise, it's quite easy for me to just go, Nigel, I flatter you with all these numbers. Yeah, we're doing great. And there being no check behind it. So,
and Craig, that's a real problem in a lot of counties where the management committee or the board isn't that great, you know, and county training hasn't been great, and sort of performance tenets has been very patchy and a bit of a postcode lottery between the good counties and the weaker rubbishy ones. And yet there could very easily be, you know, some real talented people amongst a very small number of people in those counties. So part of the problem is trying to get the boards to understand the dashboard and to hold the Craig to account, and not in a narky way, but to actually understand what can be done and what money would help in order to help each county's Craig get the whole dial to move.
Yep. And the one of the things I said in the last work group was, I don't think the LTA should be expecting to get 100% of all the counties absolutely on board. I don't think that's realistic. And I don't think that some of the counties will have the means financially and time to do it. But they need to be aiming for like 70 to 80% of counties on board with the dashboard and good communication. Then we're going to be winning. But I don't think it's going to be possible to get every single county on board to the same degree. Absolutely not. In essence, it's a health check on 10 and under tennis in every single county. And when I show you it shortly, you'll see there's a lot of work that's gone into it, and it's extensive. It basically does a health check on the player base, the engagement of clubs and coaches, the competition within your county, and player progression, players moving out into regional camps and what have you. It highlights where each county could focus their attention. It creates more accountability for myself and the county. And we will be creating action plans to target the areas of improvement. And that is the next thing that will happen. I've created an example action plan for the LTA on what one could look like if populated. And these will all be used as examples for people when they've got to fill this in. Because in some respects, there's still some people in my type of role as a volunteer. It's rare, volunteer or very small retainer. So we've tried to create examples to help them. Also, a whole list of best practices as well. So the action plans is the next step. And as I said, there's this DTAG work group that I'm on with Dave Kirby, Venetia Cozier, and various other individuals. So I think I will come back to that in a minute, and I think it would be appropriate to just show you the dashboard now. Bear with me whilst it loads. You should all see Kent. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So, LTA County Performance Dashboard. Every single county from Avon to Yorkshire is on this document, and I can see everyone's data. This is the overview page. Okay, so we'll just start with this overview page. The numbers in each box are either numbers that I submitted or numbers that the LTA could source themselves from their own databases and records. Kent are a band 3 county, which means that we got band 3 performance funding. There is band 2 and band 1. We get the highest amount of performance funding, along with a Yorkshire, a Surrey, a Middlesex, Hertfordshire, probably so on. The first category here is base. So it's just a base representation of how many children do we have in Kent that have an 8 and under advantage, or are 8 and under advantage members. We have 533, which ranks us 3 out of 40 in the country. The very best is 799. The national average is 183, and the worst was 10. And I can filter national comparison, or I can do band 3 comparison and see how we compare against our actual band. So I've got various comparisons I can do here. I'll keep it on national for now. Along with the base, when we hold our open day, we have 74 children in 2022. These are 2022, 2023 numbers. We'll soon be submitting 2023, 2024. We had 74 children go to our open day, which again ranked us 3 in the country. And you can see the numbers down here. I mean, 133 is very impressive. Probably a Yorkshire or something. Engagement. So what's important is, yes, it's great to have 74 children, but if they only come from half a dozen clubs and the same half a dozen clubs all the time, that's not good engagement. So they come from 13 clubs. Then I move on to venues and coaches. You may or may not know that we have 4 10 and under LTA performance programs. When they're in LTA performance programs, it just means that they have been recognized as a performance program that has a rich history of producing good 10 and under players. So they are Park Langley, Sevenoaks, Canterbury, and Bromley Tennis Centre. And we now have a 5th in the Avenue. So that number will increase. And then again with venues and coaches, we have 12 coaches in Kent that are working with players who are playing at a grade 2 level, which is a national level, at 9 and under and 10 and under. And again, ranks us 4 in the country. If that number is 4 coaches, then again, it's only 4 coaches that are actually involved in that level of tennis. So the greater the number here, the better. Then we move into competition. We have 55 children who are 8 and under that play in 40 plus matches a year, and that ranks us 2 in the country. Great. I actually still think it's an area that we can be better at, but doing pretty well. I must tell you that some counties and one of our nearest rivals didn't submit any of their data. So when they do, their ranking will go up. And also, I would say that some counties have submitted incorrect data because they probably don't hold the data on record. And then the number of 10 and under players competing 40 plus matches a year, 26. And then player progression, the number of players that we had selected from regional camps to get onto the regional list to go to regional centres was 4 players. So this is an overview of each of these areas down here. And if I just delve a little bit more behind each one, you'll see that base, there's the number of kids that are LTA Advantage members at each age group here. That's actually wrong. We have 1 open day every year, so that's incorrect. And then the number of children that we have in county training. Now, I'm very proud about this one because this used to be 24. And I said to you earlier that we have 4 programs. That means there are 80 children that benefit from monthly county training at 8 and under in Kent. And that's the best in the country. That means I've got 80 email addresses of parents that I spoon feed, links for competitions, LTA parenting workshop links, do 2 presentations a year to them about tennis and the pathway. That's important because it's an opportunity for me to educate the parents. So we go from 80, that's 80 at 8 and under. 50 of those are 8 and under, 30 are probably 7 and under. So if we just think of 50 and 8 and under at the moment, unfortunately, we only had place for 19 children in 9 and unders. That this year has increased to 30. So it's much better. Otherwise, the numbers are dropping too drastically, and children go from being involved in 8 and under county training, and then there's this massive cut-off at 9 and under. But it's a simple math. 2 courts at Bromley divided into 8 red courts is 32 children in any hour. If that was 2 tennis courts, I can't do any more than 10 kids. So it's because we can obviously host more players on mini red courts. And then in the county champs, 10 and unders, in those age groups this year, we had 172 children playing in those age groups. And then there's a bit more about engagements, the number of venues that sent the kids to the open days, the kids that are in county training, how many different clubs do they come from, bit more about venues and coaches delivering mini tennis, team challenges, performance programs. Then there's the competition, the number of kids that we have that play this number of matches a year.
How come we had the most number of places delivering mini tennis? What about, I mean, surely Middlesex have most of everything on every.
Well,
that one.
so
Yeah, where you're.
I went back to Dave Kirby and I said, Dave, I don't know how anyone can actually answer this. So I said to Janice, how many clubs do we have in Kent that we know have a coach working at the club? She said 122. So I was like, well, I'll bet my bottom dollar then that at some point in that coaching program, there will be some sort of mini tennis. But there's absolutely impossible to email every club and find out if they do mini tennis. It's not a category that Dave Kirby or the LTA are going to be too bothered about. But we just submitted the number of clubs that we have in Kent that we know have a coach, a resident coach.
Wow, I mean, because we only have 125 venues, so that is pretty much.
Everyone.
It could be inaccurate, but as I said, there will be some inaccuracies with some of these.
Of the numbers you've shown, that's the one that looks slightly questionable in my head.
Oh yeah, and it could well be. And it's the one I've had absolutely nothing to do with, because I just said to the LTA, the work that you're going to ask us to do to try and give you an accurate number there is not worth it. Not worth the work just to get that number, because what's it going to tell you? It's not that important. All this stuff. And then player progression this is the children playing in national level tournaments at 9 and 10 years old. And then how many kids do we send to regional camps? And then how many kids get invited to inter-regional camps? So all of that sits behind this overview page. And as I say, I can do this for every county. Do you have any questions on that at the moment? If not, I'm going to go back to the presentation and just speak a bit further.
That's a pretty cool dashboard.
Pretty extensive.
From where I'm sitting, yeah, I'm pretty impressed with that, to be fair.
Very extensive.
I absolutely love it, because it's taken a while to get there. It's had a difficult birth, but I think it's a fantastic tool. I think for some of the smaller counties, it's going to scare the hell out of them. No, where they don't have someone who's good like Craig, and where they haven't had a history of managing this sort of area well, the coaches themselves, the lead coaches, I think, are going to have the heebie-jeebies, and the board is going to think, well, why have we never asked any of these questions before? Because they haven't. It's very rare.
Individuals losing their roles.
Yeah, there are very few counties who have really looked at this. And in fairness, in Kent, we have never looked in this much detail. And now that we've got this, it's a really easy way for Craig to give it to us.
Yeah. No, it's great. And in the last Zoom, I didn't feel like there was a strategy with how the LTA were going to get this out. So I said, like, I feel like phase 1 is engage and inform. So we're going to do that at the regional forums. We're going to engage with all the coaches at the forums and inform them about it. The second stage is to then add data. We've already got data there, but let's really add data. And then it's going to be progressing. action plans. And there will be counties where Dave Kirby is going to need to put his arm around them and support them. And I've already said to him, and he knows, he doesn't have to contact me at all about the dashboard. He doesn't need to check in on Middlesex, doesn't need to check in on Kent, doesn't need to check in on Hertfordshire, and there'll be various counties he doesn't need to check on. So he doesn't need to consider this as a 40-county job.
Yeah.
He needs to go to the ones that...
The bottom 10.
Because I think there'll be 3 categories. There'll be the counties that are running with this. Then there'll be the counties that really couldn't give a shit. And then there's going to be the ones in between with just a little bit of nurturing care can get there. They're the ones he needs to focus on at the moment. Don't worry about the ones that don't have the structure at the moment. Leave those till last. Convert these other good counties here that can deliver. Then get involved with those other counties and find a way of how it will work best for them.
But all the counties should be running county training for the last few years. So,
yeah,
you know, there should be some element of structure in there, however ramshackle.
Yeah, most definitely. There's going to be a lot of questions being asked internally within counties. And the LTA don't want to ask those questions. They want the dashboard to ask it, to encourage them to ask it.
They want the boards of the counties to ask the questions.
Absolutely.
But the boards themselves in lots of places do not have the level of knowledge we have.
No.
On our board generally.
So another thing, I mean, look, it's really nice that Kent are being used as best practice. I mean, I like it. I'm not going to lie. And we should enjoy it. My ego gets stroked by the back, and I'm preparing literally every time I think of a best practice. I'm just creating this list of best practices, which will get sent out to all the counties. And if it makes other counties consider stuff there that we're considering, and then share ideas with us that we're not considering, and we all just get better for the sake of British tennis, brilliant. That's the idea. We don't need to keep all our cards close to our chest and try and maintain and protect our rankings and not let anyone else know how we're doing it. Right. Why is it not moving on? There we go. This is my own data collection, and I was doing this before the dashboard came out, but I'd just like to share it with you because if you weren't at the planning meeting in October, you won't have seen it. I would like to just show you the growth. So in the last 3 years of being in the role, we've seen this growth in the number of clubs that are sending players to an open day. Good growth. And it's not by chance that as a result of this growth, we've seen this growth. And then the number of clubs, basically every time a club or a coach nominates a player, I have them hooked in because I'm thinking if they've engaged with me, then my communication lines are now even more open to them. And that's when I then send a follow-up email with, thanks so much for sending your player. This is how they did. Not every individual. Anything else I could do for you? Any support I could give? Do you want to have a Zoom? Should we have a phone call? And then ultimately it has turned into me visiting at times. So that has grown. The number of players involved in 8s, 9s and 10s county training, 55, 82, 116. This year, 130. That's 130 children that have the opportunity and experience of working with county coaches in the ages of 7, 8 and 9 years old on a monthly basis. And then the number of players receiving, sorry, was someone speaking? No. The number of players receiving county training across all ages has grown. You heard me say the figure of 240 earlier. That's where it was, 240 children. Doesn't mean that we've massively diluted the level. Of course, we've gone down a little bit in the level, but it's still a compatible squad. But it's not like always the top 8. It now might be the top 12. Number of players invited to regional camps. These are the numbers so far. And this one is ongoing. 17 so far. And the number of players that then get invited. If you don't know, they go through the regional camps, and then April, May each year, the kids in their 10 and under age group are put onto a regional list. If they're on a regional list, they get set that list gets sent out to all of the regional centres, so Bromley, West Hants, Bath, Nottingham, so on, Leeds, and those players could apply to go and train at those regional centres, which brings the very best 11 to 14-year-olds together across 12 RPDCs. So that's what the regional camps lead to.
So, sorry, I have
Yeah.
a question on that slide, please. So in terms of the number of clubs nominating players,
Yes.
do you know the reasons behind? Is it that some clubs just don't have the caliber to nominate players, or they're just being a bit lazy, or
Multiple reasons. Let's go with one. Don't read the email. Many. But if I email 200 coaches, I bet there'll be many coaches that might just start and go, oh, no, I'm not interested. Fact. Fine. Two, don't think it's immediately, just assume it's not appropriate for their players. So they don't even look at the competency test to even check if their kids even could pass it. So they're doing a bit of a disservice to their kids. Three, not really sure about the levels. They'll be the main reasons why they don't send them. And then just not having the players. One issue, I don't think it's a massive issue in Kent, but it is an issue, and it's an issue everywhere. And it's not one I can do anything about. And I can already tell you now that in September this year, some good players came from a small club. And by going to county training, these children have now had and the parents more so, have had this world opening up to them of tennis, because they only knew tennis the 2 times a week they went to their little club with their coach. They maybe played a bit of competition. And now they've gone to county training, and their parents are sitting up there going, oh my God, who are these kids? Where are they from? And then they get chatting with all the other parents, and they go, where's your child? Oh, Park Langley. Where are they? Bromley. The Canterbury. And naturally, those competitive parents have then taken their children out of that small club and put them into the bigger club, which ultimately is better in the long run for most of those players. But being involved in county activity has actually made that happen without anyone doing any scouting, Jason. But it's a product of it. And it's unfortunate. There will be coaches out there then, Jason, that will be protecting their own interests and their own businesses, because they'll think that if they send their best children to county training, actually they might end up losing them. And I get it from a business point of view, but it's a shame for the child then that maybe doesn't get the opportunity to develop.
Mhm.
That could also be another reason. And that's one of the ones that I'd be doing trying to get out and around to the clubs as best myself to try and ensure that they're not scared of that. It could naturally just happen anyway when the kids start playing tournaments and realizing that the kids that win all the tournaments at 8 and under either come from Bromley or Park Langley. And if they're a competitive parent, they're going to jump on that. Fact. But unfortunately, Jason, a lot of the coaches won't even read the email. Any more questions on that before I go on to my last area?
No, just to say, I can see Jason looking quizzical. We are trying to revamp the way we connect with coaches, so that, for example, if Craig sends that sort of stuff out, our coaches network, which we are hoping will be a push largely by WhatsApp, so it's not going to be a big conversational group. It will be triggering people's, jogging their elbow to say, look, this is here, you need to go and just deal with it. I'm hoping that would help people like Craig and this situation, among many others, where coaches are pretty crap at answering their emails and spotting that important emails are in their inbox. So we can only try.
This is what else I do. This is something I created really because we've just spoken a lot about 10 and unders. I told you earlier that 11 to 14 is all sorted. What happens to our teenagers then? So just try to create some activity for our 14 pluses to basically let them know that I see them. I see who you are, identify who you are. You're not world beaters right now. Probably not now going to win Wimbledon like you thought you were when you were 9. You're 14 or 15, 16, and reality set in as to now what your pathway in tennis is. And some of them do get lost. So we held 2 presentations in November and December last year. I had a Zoom with Alistair Hyam, who spoke about the UK university route. So it's furthering your education into any of the UK universities and how there are various tennis programs to offer. And that was well populated. We had players and parents on that Zoom, players aged 12 up. So there were some parents wanting to get some early knowledge. We then held a US college presentation where Pippa, who's our 18 and under captain, girls captain, also owns a company called Stars and Stripes Recruitment. She came in and spoke to 50 parents and players in person regarding the route of going to the US college and what subjects they would have need to have studied and the process. Absolutely superb. No one knows it better than someone who is in the US college recruitment. It is not easy to navigate. I recorded the Alistair Hyam Zoom so that I could just resend that out each year. And the Pippa Lane one, maybe we'll run that in person every 2 years. I'm speaking with some of the coaches at the moment about the retention of girls aged 14 plus. We don't have a massive problem in Kent. However, this year, we had girls signing up to our county training program at 14 under and 16 and under, and then just not attending. I just want to know why. And I want to encourage these girls to understand that they should be representing their adult clubs teams. I back in the day was the head coach at Bexley Tennis Club, and we had some of the best girls in Kent there at Bexley. They all played in the ladies team and the mixed teams. And often, I mean, these girls were so good, they were better than the men. But a lot now, these girls don't represent their club. So they don't even know that, and Keely will be like all over this, hearing this, like they don't even know how good the Division 1 or 2 is of the Kent League ladies doubles. They have no idea how to get into it. The doubles is so important. If they do go to university and they don't even end up playing for the university, but they want to join their local club socially, they can play doubles. But these girls, I don't think are playing for their clubs anywhere near as much as they used to back in the day. And we want to just notify them of the opportunities to represent Kent post 14 under. We have a Surbiton trophy, a Southeast trophy at Surbiton. Last year, Andy Murray was playing in the final on the day that the Kent, Surrey, Sussex, Middlesex players were there playing on the same grass in an event. And they met him at photos and what have you. And we're going to look to widen the net of our 18 and under girls session and actually not run the 16s this next year as a separate session. We're actually going to bring everyone into the 18 session, which will dilute it down a little bit, but I'll get 4 courts at Bromley, which can house 16 players at a time, and I'll have a register of 22 players where the girls can go, here's 6 sessions, pick the ones that you want to attend. And wherever there are spaces, I'll get another girl in that can take those spaces, and we could be catering for 22, 24 girls, 18 and under. Even if they're not going to get in the County Cup team, they're going to want to be there. The next steps for me will be having 2 careers presentations. So I'm going to have a conversation with Siobhan and Harry Izzard about having an officials presentation with any individuals that might want to get into being a court supervisor and ultimately maybe one day a referee or umpire or what have you. And maybe Luke House to talking about how to get into a career in coaching and how we as a county are able to support that in some way financially with getting more level 1, level 2 coaches involved. So that's kind of the next step. It's an area that doesn't have a huge amount of my focus, but it's trying to do something in that older age group. Player funding is another area. Maybe it may look slightly different from next year, but we've been very fortunate to have some good sponsorship from very generous individuals, where we've been able to support some of our very best players in Kent, or players that the funds would be of really good use to help to them. We generally, the last 2 years, have spent £9,000 to £10,000, probably looking after about 7 players on each occasion. Individual grants ranging from £750 up to £3,000 per player, and they sign a contract, which we've never done, and in that contract it is very specific about what is expected of them, and also it is not to pay for an existing program, it's to supplement a program. So international travel is key. Having a coach to be able to go and support them at tournaments and pay that coach a daily rate is a big one. The amount that coach and player can learn together is huge. And program enhancement, extra individual lesson a week, S&C coach, whatever. So we've been able to do that these last couple of years. I get the players to report in twice a year on how the funds have been used and the successes, and then I pass that to the powers that be, and it's the information is there to go back to the sponsors if they ever ask for it. I think in the past, very much in the past, money may have been given, but no contracts were signed. Players may not have then said that they would represent Kent when asked. There was nothing to go back on, and also no one really knew what the money was then used for. So trying to be a little bit more on it with the player funding.
Yeah, because Craig, I mean, sorry, Keith, I think there's a lot we can do here, actually. You know, I think engaging more with our sponsors. I know people who would be quite keen to sponsor specific individuals. And I think there's, you know, we can do a lot more here. So I just, you know, this is great, but, you know,
absolutely great.
Take it to the next level. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the areas here has been very difficult is how we means test. We can't, basically. But I know of three individuals that got money this year. I knew it was going to make a big difference to them. When I sent them that letter and told them they were getting £1,000 or 1,500 quid, I knew it was going to make a big difference. But I also know there will be other individuals out there that could really benefit from some financial help. And this is not a year-on-year reoccurrence. We have had players that got funded last year and this year. Doesn't mean they'll get it again next year. Yeah. Within that, one of our wheelchair players who represented Great Britain received some funding, and he was able to take his coach with him to a tournament in the Netherlands, and that's Ruben Harris down in Canterbury. So the player funding generally kind of get together around about September. I put together the players that I think could benefit from it. I speak to individual coaches. It's not something that players can apply for, or parents can even apply for. And then I submit it to the performance committee, and we discuss individual cases. There are 2 other pots of money that we've had historically, which can be used a little bit more for wider projects of diversity, rather than this being individually based. Last thing, this is new. So the LTA wanted to try a new approach with coach mentoring. So they want to trial this with Kent. So the LTA have partnered with Kent in that the LTA have put in 50% of the funds, and Kent have then matched it with 50% of the funds, which then is allowing 5 coaches to get mentored by myself over this year. I started last week with a good old visit to Martin Dean Keeley, Spent the entire day with Sophia Thomas, on call with her and her players. We've set action plans of what she's going to look to improve on within her coaching over the next 2 or 3 months. And then I will revisit. I will work with her closely on the development of some of the technical areas of some of her players. I've got 2 coaches in Sevenoaks and 2 coaches at Bromley Sports Club that will be benefiting from this year. They absolutely know that they are basically getting some free mentoring. I'm going on Friday to Sevenoaks and spending the afternoon there with those 2 coaches. So this is something that the LT wanted to look at. So we're trialing it for them. Oh, and if you don't know, I also do this stuff. So Jason, I coach Alfie Hewitt. So I'm also quite busy with him. That's it. Hour and a half, or hour and 20. We started late.
Great job, Craig.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. Thank you. Fantastic.
Sorry if I've kept you a bit longer, but you know, it was all relevant.